So leaders are in a very difficult and uncomfortable position today. Leadership is more difficult now than it's ever been. They are dealing with human anxiety, uncertainty, human egos, especially with people who know what they want and are very outspoken. I'm talking about the Gen Z. They do not believe in structures. They do not mind going to your boss's boss to ask for things, which probably was unheard of when we were actually growing up in the workforce. They're really fast when it comes to technology. Flexibility and the work-life balance is something which they prefer. And how do you deal with that? You know, that's the problem which we have, and this debate will touch upon some of these aspects. So let me just call upon Prachi Rastogi to moderate this great debate. Prachi, can I have you on stage, please? And we have the esteemed panelist here. May I call Vivek Tripathi, Vice President and HR Head of Newgen Software. And can I also have Manu Wadhwa, who's the CHRO for Sony Pictures and Networks. Do we have you, Manu, here? Okay. Can I invite Aditya Kohli, who's the CHRO of Orient Electric? Please welcome with a little round of applause, please. And we have a bit of a difficult side of Gen Z here, and may I please invite my team member and my colleague, Mehak Bansal, who's the product manager for WeAce. And Aurko Mahapatra, who's the data, insight and policy professional. Aurko, can I have you on stage, please? Okay, and Atma Godara, who's Vice President, Head People and Culture of ACME. So Prachi, over to you.
चलिए फिर शुरू करते हैं. Welcome to GenX versus Gen Z. This is a great workplace rumble. I'm your host and we are decoding tonight the differences between the two generations. So देखते हैं क्या होता है. A little disclaimer is that I'm going to make some generic statements. So if you're a Gen Xer who secretly enjoys the frequent chai breaks, or if you're a Gen Zer who still rocks the Walkman, then आप exception हो, आप बुरा मत मानना. So let's meet the Gen Zs. They are born between 1999 and 2012 broadly. They live and breathe the Instagram reels, and they think emails are of the Dada Dadi generation. The question is that will they actually become the future CEOs, or are they only good at making dosa look Instagram worthy? So we'll find out. And let's see what research says about them. Research says actually they're unique people. For one, they're very purpose driven. 63% of them would actually take a pay cut to work for a company with values that align with their own. So अगर आपकी company में दम नहीं है तो ये चले जाएंगे. Number two, very collaborative. They love chai pe charcha. So they want to work for managers who are not micromanagers but mentors. So इनके साथ मिलजुल के काम करना है, bossing नहीं चलेगी. Number three is that they are very tech savvy. They can code, they can design, they can get free data on their SIM, but can they really fix a Wi-Fi? 50-50. Just kidding. Number four, and my personal favorite, inclusion is non-negotiable for them. 86% of them would actually study a company's commitment to inclusion before deciding where to join. So, welcome Atma, Mehak and Aurko. And let's meet the Gen Xers. So they are original rebels who've lived life without Google Maps, who've lived life without smartphones. इन्होंने कैसेट्स भी सुने हैं और पावर आउटेजेस भी देखी हैं. Are they cynical? Maybe. Are they resilient? Definitely. They invented the internet and now they're seeing Gen Zs making Instagram reels on it. So let's see what data says about them. One, they're very independent. They need no hand-holding. They've, as I said, lived without Google Maps and smartphones. They can handle any tough situation. Number two, very pragmatic. They get the work done no matter what. So they are really the jugaad masters of the workplace. And number 3 is they're very resilient. They've survived the economic liberalization, Y2K fears, and now the Gen Z's revolution. So they literally are the workplace ninjas for us. So welcome, Gen Xers. And you, the audience, you're the jury for tonight. And please save me if there's something which happens, a fight which happens here, here today. So let's begin with an opening statement with each one of you, 1 minute, and make it count, warna chance chala jayega. So let's start with you, Atma.
Thank you very much, Prachi, for having me here, and it's a great panel to be part of. So just one before I start, so I'm a bridge between Gen X and Gen Z. I'm the millennial, so at one point of time we are in the corporate world, we are managing the expectations of the Gen X and managing the aspirations of the Gen Z. So bridge between the two. But my ask or my statement for the day is constancy is the only change. You like it, you dislike it, you can't do anything about it. If you are not adaptive, if you are not changing, you will become extinct in no course of time. So somewhere, I don't want to make it very sweet and very moderated, but still I believe that Gen Z is a mindset. It's not an age, and an age is a number in today's time and day when, you know, the medical science is so well advanced that people can, so 60 is not a retirement age. So I met so many people in their late 60s, and I work with someone very closely who's almost 70, but he's more Gen Z than anyone in the organization. I've seen that. So that's for a later part. I mean, this is the time where I have to defend more on the Gen Z side. Yeah.
Thanks, Atma, and thanks, Prachi, for having me on this panel. Just like Atma, not a pure Gen Z, but both for this discussion as well as for my votes, I am inclined towards the Gen Zs. So everybody says that Gen Zs are different, but what made them different? When Gen Zs arrived to the workforce, they faced what not? Economic crisis, demonetization, climate change, digital transformation, everything. And that is what shaped them to what they are today. Yes, you rightly said, you know, Gen Zs would definitely choose what they want to do just because that they operate differently. They don't want control, command, but they want to be led inclusively. And that is what makes them different. They definitely, you know, they believe in purpose over power, and that is what is their superpower. And just to end up and summarize, I would say that leadership, if not valuing mental and emotional security today, is leading from the past. And Gen Zs, I think they are just first adopters, and they have seen the future first. So that is where they are different. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehak.
Hello, everyone. So I am Gen Z. I just made the cut. I'm 99 born. And what I wanted to kind of talk about is that there's this panic that Gen Z, they're not resilient, they're mentally fragile, they give up easy. But I want to say that this generational gap and difference in work cultures and attitudes is nothing new. So I'm going to try to keep it very crisp, but there was the silent generation and the baby boomers, and they also had a very big gap in work ethic. And the silent generation grew up during the Great Depression, during the World Wars, and they had a real scarcity economy. And the baby boomers, they, especially in Europe, they benefited a lot from the Marshall Plan and foreign investment. So they saw surplus economy, and they placed more value on things like work-life balance, quality of life. And I think we're seeing something similar, where Gen X used to have power outages, they used to have to wait years to get a car from Hindustan Motors, and they had to go to their neighbor's house to watch the World Cup. We grew up in a time where, in a surplus economy in the post-liberalization India. So for us, maybe we take some of these things for granted, but also we want to define our boundaries, and we want to place work-life balance, happiness, and quality of life also on a pedestal.
Ooh, thank you very much. Strong punches. Hai? So I'm hoping that...
Okay, so I think we sometimes take up stereotypes, we kind of stereotype a generation. So the idea is not that. But I think we have to see leadership in the current context, and therefore, because leadership is situational, and the current context is what we have to understand the kind of leadership which will be able to meet the challenges of the context today. And the current context is made up of rapid change, uncertainty, and the ability to take decisions and then to sometimes even undo those and take new decisions, but constantly move forward. So I think we have to see how does a leader, whether he is from Gen Z or Gen X, how are they able to really work in that kind of a context. And it will be interesting to see how the differences in approach, how do they kind of show up in this kind of a scenario that we find ourselves in, both organizations as well as in the world in general.
Thank you.
Okay, I tested out my debate with my Gen Zs at home, and I was told to start with an apology before even I get into this. It was very clearly articulated and clarified that social media will go on fire. I'll be dissed, so just watch out. So I'm kind of putting all the caveats in play before I get into it, right? And at the heart of it, it's a debate, so let's kind of use that format. I think, I completely agree with environment changing. I completely agree with the pace of change. I completely agree with different generations where the needs and wants are very different. But at the heart of it, let's kind of be true, right? Entitled, narcissistic, fragile, and connected to internet, right? And that's the heart of it. And you're in a work environment where work is about a process of adding value. It is, yes, if it is joyful, it's phenomenal. If it's purposeful, it's even better. But that's 1% of the work. Okay, let's break it down. From growing food to building stuff to changing the world requires real work, which may have certain amount of labor and effort and energy and a whole lot of diligence that's involved. So if you're going to change the world, we need to kind of anchor ourselves as we think about changing the world. And there, I've kind of taken the first salvo.
Is your blood burning already? I hope it is. Manu.
I'll follow the lead. I was literally thinking, what's the best colloquial to describe us? And one thing which comes to my mind is gold. Why I say gold is because सोना जब आप heat में करते हो, तराशते तभी है. The gold which you see around is because of the heat and the pressure it gets. The diamond which some of the ladies I'm sure are wearing here, that goes through the pressure, which is why coal becomes diamond. Some of your fit bodies become fit when you really chisel them out and work and sweat. That for me is Gen X. And if at all, something I would advise to my Gen Z colleagues, lovely friends, would be take that stride on, and that heat is a must.
Thank you very much, Manu. So tell me in the audience, how many people are with the Gen Xers? You need not be from that generation, but how many? Give me a cheer, please. Woohoo! And how many with the Gen Zers? You can't be with both the parties.
They are undecided right now.
तो आपके साथ तो कोई भी नहीं है, but मैं हूँ. All right, so let's get the debate started. And बिल्कुल भी don't be shy. पूरा point रखना अपना, and we'll begin. And we start with you, Aditya. So when you started, resilience meant long hours and tough feedback. So do you feel that the Gen Z's insistence on boundaries, does it sound like a weakness to you?
I think, I wouldn't say weakness. I think it is a you want to make changes, you want to build something, there has to be radical candor in the conversations. And when leaders start spending more time thinking about how to frame and structure the message rather than the message itself, then I think something gets lost in translation. And I think, look, while I may be on this side of the debate, I completely get where they come from. They don't have a, they're kind of natives, digital natives. They are working in probably the most complex ecosystem that's there in an organization. You're kind of working in a place where you have multiple, the heterogeneity in an office setup has never been more.
Could you take the mic closer?
Sorry. Has never been more, right? So I think I get it. Right? But when you got to pussyfoot around conversations, when you know that when you have a tough conversation, somebody may not show up next morning because it takes a few days to kind of unwind, disconnect, and then reconnect. I think that is a challenge. Given the context of where we are, they are the future. But how do they kind of make that transition is going to matter to a lot of Gen Xers who handhold the Gen Zs out there, right? So I think there is a little bit of a way to go.
Anybody wants to respond to that? Atma is...
As a very, very good point about processes and structure. I think the problem is the more times you spend, the more less agile you become. This is what I feel. And someone who has been there for say 30 years or 35 years, they always feel in a way, and this is nothing about, it's about the debate, yeah. So they always feel that if I have reached this kind of position or this kind of exposure in these many years, why this person is getting the same thing or probably reaching at the same point in a lesser amount of time, despite even not knowing how the times are changing and how the situations are changing. So this is where I don't agree with what you have said that, and the problem, what you said, tough conversation, totally agree with you. But the challenge, what I see, that there is a thin line between tough conversation and toxicity. Toxicity, yeah. So, and Gen Zs or the new generations, they are very, very vocal about mental health. And I mean, some of the things which, when they bring to the workplace, their bosses would be like, are you not a man enough? This I have heard a lot of times, myself. And this is a very normal statement, probably in some of the offices, in some of the corridors, but probably for the new generation, this is totally unacceptable, right? This is not even it's an offensive comment. It's a matter of the posh. So I think this is where I don't agree with, these tough conversations, going by the processes, and somewhere I think Manu has mentioned about the gold and the diamond. Again, they go through the same process, but these days, when we talk about innovation, when we talk about new things, and we are seeing unprecedented growth, unprecedented outcomes from anywhere and everywhere. So that can happen anytime.
Thank you. So my next question is to you, Aurko, that if Gen Z is really ready for leadership, why do so many of you quit at the first sign of struggle?
Thank you. So first I want to just respond to what has been already said a bunch of times from the GenX side, which is that in this fast-paced environment, in this changing environment, in this harsh environment, this is, I think, a case of where you create a disease and then you're selling the remedy. Who has created this fast-paced environment? Who has created this harsh reality, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to reset the culture. We're trying to say, this is a safe space. You want to take a break, you can take a break. Now, how many people over here watch the India versus England series? Any cricket fans? Who's the best bowler in the world? Jasprit Bumrah? How many games did he play? 3 games out of 5. Why? Because he needed a break for his body. And he continues to be the best bowler in the world. So, if a top athlete can say, my body needs rest, Somebody who's using his mind every single day, 8 hours a day, why can't he take a day off and reassess whether they need some time off? Now to the question, why do we quit so fast? We don't quit fast. We just prioritize ourselves because today we're dealing with a world where maybe poverty is on the downturn, but precarity is on the rise. We live in a very precarious situation. And leaders are not just foreign educated people like me or people who went to good business schools. Anybody can be a leader. The guy who's your Swiggy delivery guy can be a leader tomorrow. But today, the owners of Swiggy are not even willing to call him an employee or give him, any kind of employee rights or any security. So that social safety net is reducing. So that Swiggy guy will say, why should I invest so much in this company which is not giving me anything? Even in top-level white-collar jobs, there are layoffs every single year. So job security is in you never hear of a person, entering a company and retiring at the same company, which was very common in the Gen X and the generation preceding the Gen X. So people now, they don't want to put all of their eggs in one basket. They don't want to go all out at work. They want to do their 9 to 5, then they want to do their 5 to 9, whether that's their own business, whether it's focusing on their health, whether it's focusing on their family. And the last thing I want to say is that the future leaders are the children of today. And if you're going to work 12, 14 hours a day, you have no time for your kids. You have no time for your families. So how are you supposed to raise them to be leaders of tomorrow? Maybe we are a bit mentally fragile, but that's because the Gen X was so obsessed with getting a better car next year, getting a bigger house next year, that we only saw our parents maybe once a week. So maybe we just want to give our kids something we did not have.
ताली बनती है इसके लिए. So, Manu, the next question is for you. Gen Z clearly, like he said, talks a lot about anxiety and vulnerability and inclusivity. Do you think that kind of dilutes authority?
Well, I'm going to definitely respond to this. There is this entire element of emotional expression, which I think Gen Zs do a very, very good job at. I personally am very, very happy most of the time when my kids, who are Gen Zs themselves, or some of the co-workers that I have who were born in the early space of Gen Z era. Expression, however, is not equals to resilience. And the element of emotional expression sometimes gets misconstrued as emotional resilience. What I would like to see at work is actually emotional resilience. Ability to withstand pressures. Ability to stand tall when you're expected to excel in a delivery. Ability to take the tough calls. And sometimes I'm not stating that tough calls are always taken at the top. Tough calls are taken at every step of the way. In my kind of profession, you're taking a tough call as a youngster, as the age that you are in, wherein you're the top-end producer of Bollywood, and you're, just politely declining them, saying, no, I can't take that movie because you're charging me high. That tough call today, I miss the Gen Zs being able to take. Because that tough call comes in when you've also faced the heat all through your childhood and early times, wherein you've really kind of been able to push through the bars of your own excellence. Why I call this out is because that ability to put heat on yourself in the educational spaces, knowing what it is to aspire to get that car, knowing it is, that ability to eat at that fine dining restaurant, which by the way, your parents were working hard for, and therefore you could go to do that. Really, that heat is what makes the individual stronger and more, I would say resilient. So in this space, my only hope will be, as years pass on, this resilience strengthens, and it's not just emotional expression. Because emotional expression will not give you anything else except glorious words. But resilience will make you tough leaders who are future leaders for tomorrow, who are able to take the strides with empathy and yet are very, very assertive when you have to take the tough call of closing a business, firing 10,000 people, because that's the right business call. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, there's no gratification if the bankroll is not happening for the company or your bank house.
I'll do a woohoo for it. Thank you very much, Manu. And we'll just come to you, Mehak, but Vivek, the next question is for you. That if you were to hand over your organization to a Gen Z tomorrow, what will be your biggest fear?
So I think, again, the fact is that when you are a leader, you have to take tough calls. Some of the time, those calls will be wrong, and you must be able to then come back. So how do you ensure that you are not just able to take decisions, but how are you able to ensure that you are able to also come back in case they prove to be wrong, and how can you be emotionally resilient to be able to take your organization through the times that will come? And given the kind of context in which we are, all leaders will take wrong calls. Will they be able to come back after that? Will they be able to steer their organizations and course correct? Will they be able to take their people along with them? Will they be able to connect with their people? That's the other point, At the end of the day, leadership would be about connecting with the people. And do you have the skills to really connect with your employees? Do you have the skills to communicate with your employees? Do you have the skills to appear authentic with your employees? That is the question. In the current context, you have to take your organizations through without really knowing all the right answers, but you still have to move forward. And that's where emotional resilience, the ability to take calls and take people along is extremely important. So that's the fear.
So, आपकी resilient होने पे बहुत question है. But anyways, we'll come to you, Mehak. Do you think Gen Z can actually take unpopular, tough decisions? Can you actually fire people?
That's a great question, Prachi. But before coming to that, just to Manu's point, which made formally, she rightly said that, diamonds, they require pressure, and that is how the process goes on, and they become diamonds. But possibly, the pressures that we are talking about are different in case of Gen Zs, right? And like we rightly say that, हीरे की पहचान ज़ौरी कर सकता है, which means that if you find the right talent, I'm sure you will not like to lose it just because they are empathetic, just because they are emotionally more secure, right? And now coming to your point, Prachi, I absolutely feel that Gen Zs, they can take tough calls. It's just that the way of executing these tough calls is very, very different from what the traditional leadership used to do. They are far more empathetic. They don't believe in goody-goody goodbye emails, but they would definitely want empathy to be active and not just an emotion, which means that they will stand by the people, they will have conversations, they will support them with resources to make them feel, heard. We have seen in organizations very recently where, that when all these layoffs have not been handled so properly, there have been backlashes to the organizations, and it has been a damage to both financial and cultural aspects of the organizations. So I will say that empathy doesn't, replace toughness, but it redefines it. It makes it more responsible, it makes it more credible, it makes it more human. And that is what Gen Z's superpower is.
Thank you very much, Mehak. So, अब थोड़े provocative questions पूछते हैं. आसान बहुत सारे पूछ लिए. So, Aditya, the next one is for you, and we've seen that Gen Z usually is a little, they talk a lot about anxiety and being overwhelmed by the global noise. But isn't heightened awareness also what makes you a responsible, conscious leader?
So I think, they get the benefit of the world at their fingertips. The phone has everything that they need, and it's all available, and it's all doom and gloom being generated by probably some AI somewhere. Now, I think at the heart of it, there is a certain degree of fragility that is there. At the heart of it, there is obviously they need to kind of filter out a lot and be able to act on it. But it's also one where I think they potentially have the most available resources compared to any generation to make a difference. I think that's the way I would see it.
Anything to say to that, Orko?
No, I think you make some very valid points, and it ties in well to the idea that Gen X grew up in a scarcity economy, which informs how they feel about things and the hustle and the grind and the hard work. And maybe that's a bit missing in Gen Z. It's totally possible. But the way I would say is that when Gen Z become the leaders of tomorrow, they will be leading more Gen Z people than Gen X people. And to deal with people from Gen Z who might be more fragile, to get the best out of them, maybe a more softer, more empathetic approach is the best way. And also, pressure turns coal into diamonds, but coal is pretty useful as well. So,
okay. So let me kind of give you two observations, right? One, I think the workforce that you will, as a Gen Z, go into will be the most diverse that ever has been, right? It will have not only various generations, it may have various sectors, and you will have virtual, present, non-present, whole bunch of people. And the tenacity that would be required potentially from a Gen X to manage that workforce versus the expectation of a Gen Z to manage that workforce will be hugely different. That's one point. The second is, there's a term called Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know, the more confident you are, right? I think getting into the depth and understanding the implications will make a significantly greater awareness, right? I think you can call it wisdom over a period of time, but we tend to underestimate the complexity when we know it. We don't know enough of it.
And with that to you, Vivek, you, in my many conversations with you, you've often called Gen Zs very entitled. So do you think this entitlement could be self-advocacy? Do you think that asking for balance and respect is something that the earlier generation actually never dared to demand?
Yeah, I think self-advocacy is required. You have to ask, and I suppose unless you ask, you will not get what you want. But I think more than that, the question is that whatever you are asking, how are you perceived about whatever you are asking? Are you being perceived as a person who adds value, who has credibility, or is it more about, this is what I'm entitled to? And therefore, when let's say the example that was given about Jasprit Bumrah, he is able to play 3 matches because he has proved himself to be extremely talented at what he does. And then if he asks for something, then it has value. So I think that's the important lesson, that drawing boundaries or marking out, entitlements may be okay, and it's probably true that the earlier generation was very reticent, but having that talent and displaying that talent, which comes through extreme hard work, which comes through extreme, after understanding a lot of things, is probably more important.
तो आपके हार्ड वर्क पे भी थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चन है. So Mehak, the next one is for you. That Gen Zs, you call yourself a very self-aware generation. So is it really self-awareness or self-obsession? Is it really self-love?
I don't think so, Prachi. I would say that, for generations, Gen X and possibly generations before that, they have lived life like ये जीवन है, इस जीवन का यही है रंग रूप. But for us, it's more about "ऐ ज़िंदगी गले लगा ले," right? That's where the difference is. So I don't think it's just self-love. It's more of self-awareness. Gen Zs, they are the first generation. They have started talking about mental awareness, sustainable leadership, inclusivity. And they are unafraid to turn the mirror to themselves and then to use that reflection to demand a change in the world around themselves, right? And I feel there's nothing wrong about that. Because at the end, if you can create trust, resilience around yourself, you can only do that when you're not empty inside. That is where you can create that for others. So it's not really self-love, indulgence, but it's much more.
She's sure about it. And the next one is for you, Manu, that as Gen X, your style, your leadership style, I mean not yours, but your generation style, leadership style has not changed much. So why should they trust you for 2030?
Why should you trust Gen X leading you in the way forward is back to the original points I made. They have grinded and they've seen more failures in life, which helps them be better equipped to tackle the adversities and the complexities which the world is going through right now. I'm definitely not stating that some of the bright professionals here and in our households will not become great leaders. But I still go back to stating that that grind is what makes you invaluable. To the point that you made about excellence, that element of excellence is actually the core meal. When you order a good dish in a restaurant, which is dinner time right now, I'm sure there's hunger buzz, protein is the core of that dish. It's not the spice, which is just the core. The core is actually you ordering a protein, and excellence in your work today is actually that protein. If you are strong, if you are able to get into a technical expertise depth, there is nobody around you who will be able to question you for your need to have mental balance, for your need to have a timeout. I personally have been a very big advocate, by the way. More than 25 years in corporate life, there's not one day wherein I have not primarily, given significance to my own needs versus the organizations. And every organization I worked with respected that. So that is not generational. The difference is I gave to get that. And what did I give? I gave my excellence. I gave those efforts and the hours required for the corporation and the goals to be supreme, which in result made it very easy for me to command what I needed. Today as much, my office is Mumbai, I am in Delhi. And I've been comfortably doing this for over 7 years now. The only reason is because you give to get, and excellence gives you that ticket to give so that you get everything that you're stating. So the only ask I would have for this generation will be, just pick this one up for us. I'm sure you're going to be far superior leaders than we have been. But allow us also to let you in that way as you become the leaders for tomorrow.
Thank you very much. A big hand for that. And with that, we are really coming towards the end, and I'd love if each one of you has a closing comment to make. Atma?
Sure. I think what I have been hearing a lot about longer hours, prioritizing work over personal space. I mean, of course, not across the board, but and then lack of resilience. What I believe it's a misnomer. What the Gen Z is trying to do, they are being highly adaptive. And there are so many research in the market already which says that people who are highly adaptive and maybe less tenured, they will be the future leaders. So I think the adaptability has been misconstructed as the lack of resilience here. That is first thing. Second, my point is around this thing that the half-life of the skills is less than 5 years now. It used to be more than 10 years, couple of years back. So your skills are getting replaced every day. So for that, you need to be highly alert, highly agile, quick to move over, be it working hours, or be it organizations, be it teams, or be it bosses. That is the only way to survive. And the last point is my humble request to the leaders and Gen X is that you are at the top of the Mount Everest, and Gen Z is crying from the bottom with their hands up. They want you to hold their hand and pull them up, rather than pushing them down to the valley.
So first of all, a wonderful debate, I would say, and I really appreciate the views that have been coming from that side. And I feel that it's just the time that we understand the point of view from both sides, and possibly because we are the center stage, possibly more from the Gen X's, Gen Z's, because it's high time that we redesign our workplaces and to make them more inclusive, make them more empathetic, because there is no dearth of talent which the Gen Zs bring, and if we are able to equalize and balance of what they bring and how we could retain them, I think our workplaces would be fabulous and great places to continue working with.
Thank you, Mehak, and we'll come to you the last. Aditya.
Look, while I'm on this side of the debate, I think I'm a big believer of the potential that they bring to the table. I think this potential needs to turn into kinetic. And that transition is something that I have no doubts will happen, but the edges still need to be filed out a little bit more. I think in an era where collaboration is going to be key, Gen Zs do a very good job in collaborating. I think in an era where technology is changing and the environment is changing quite fast, they bring that capability in place. Yes, they need to kind of build resilience. Yes, they need to be a little bit anti-fragile. But they'll get there, I guess.
Thank you.
So I think that I really appreciate the sensitivity and the idealism that many in Gen Z exhibit. And definitely, I agree that there are a lot of things in the world that need to be changed. But generally, the rules of the game are changed by those who know the game. So you will have to first know the game, and then you can, of course, get the right to make changes. And the other thing is about the huge amount of information which all of us now, and especially Gen Z, is always connected to. Some of that information is useful, a lot of it is not. And therefore, the ability to tune out a lot of stuff so that you can focus on things which are really important will be crucial, because nothing of any significance, I think, can be done if you're doing too many things, or if your mind is cluttered. So I think those are the two things I would say.
Actions speak louder than words. I would only request Gen Zs to go beyond words and really create impact at the workplaces that you are a part of, because that's what truly makes the difference. After that, you can command anything. You want to take 5 days out for a spa, you want to take 50 days sabbatical, please. I'm only expecting impact.
Thank you all for your views. I have learned a lot in this conversation today. I'll just end with saying, today we're talking about the leaders of tomorrow in the context of kind of the private sector, the corporate world, right? And what is it that we want to do? We want to build companies which do great things, the Nikes, the Apples, the Infosys of the world. And you can't build no great company comes from a country which is not doing well. And if we are to build this nation and culture its leaders, we have to equip them to be holistic people. And for that to happen, maybe the priorities of this generation don't align with your generation, right? Maybe we care more about impact. Maybe we care more about having good public transport than rather than having a good private car. Maybe we care more about public education rather than sending our kids abroad to study. So maybe there might be a shift of priorities, and that might look scary to you. Maybe it means moving into a smaller house. Maybe it means losing your job. But I think we know what we want to do with our future, and we want to work with you, we want to work with the Gen Xs, and we want to build our future together.
I think we've had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, poking fun at both the generations, and all 6 of them did an incredible job of representing their generation. Please stand up and give them a big hand.
Thank you so much, the panelists. May I request all of you to stay on stage. May I invite Meeta on stage, co-founder WeAce, to give the mementos, please. So may I have a big round of applause for the panelists? Right. And I just want to thank our sponsors once again, Masters Union, Nestle, and of course IBM. And may I please hear a little cheer from the WeAce team who has organized this? Great. Thank you, everyone.